The FBI and federal law enforcement more generally have become literally a weaponized tentacle of the deep state, and the raid on Donald Trump's house proved it. Stay tuned and I'll tell you more. Welcome, everybody, to Behind the Deep State. I'm your host, Alex Newman. Thank you for joining us today. And just a few episodes ago, on June 21st, we actually warned you that the Department of Injustice in the Biden administration was actually working on criminal charges against Donald Trump. Very serious criminal charges. In fact, criminal charges that might have been able to prevent him from running in 2024, involving claims of insurrection and sedition and mishandling of documents and all sorts of other bonkers, bananas legal ideas that the Biden regime was coming up with. And we warned you that this was going to come. And obviously, we are now in the early phases of that. It's happening. The FBI, or the clown car formerly known as the FBI, has officially crossed the Rubicon. They have now raided the home of a former president for the first time in American history. They seized documents, they seized computers, they broke into his safe. It was under siege, as President Trump put it. They riled through Melania Trump's stuff. Can you imagine that, having your wife or your wife's private things rifled through by a bunch of goons? Folks, Trump has publicly expressed concerns, and so have members of Congress and others, that the FBI may have planted fraudulent evidence to try to take down Trump. And honestly, in today's world, nothing would be surprising anymore. In fact, it just emerged now that the FBI refused to even hand over the search warrant for the raid on Mar-a-Lago, and they actually kicked Trump's attorney off of the property. Folks, this is unprecedented in American history. As someone who grew up in the third world, I can tell you this is beyond the stuff that you even see in banana republics. This is unbelievable. Meanwhile, the clownish Attorney General of New York is also trying to take down Donald Trump. Going through all of his private papers and his documents and his taxes, trying to find evidence of some sort of crime that they can go after him. This investigation involves allegations that the Trump's company, the Trump organization, misstated the value of prized assets like golf courses and skyscrapers, misleading lenders and tax authorities. So interesting. We've got all of the various law enforcement arms of the Democrats and the deep state working to take down one man, Donald Trump. And of course, others we'll talk about in a moment. But there are, at the same time, actual known criminals running around free. How about Hunter Biden, the crackhead whose laptop contains evidence of nefarious deals with hostile foreign governments, betraying his own country, paying bribes to the big guy? That, of course, would be his dad, the current resident of the White House. Why have there been no raids on Hunter Biden? What about Joe Biden himself, the big guy? How much of a cut was the big guy getting from these shady deals? How about Hillary Clinton and all of her shady emails? How about all of the bizarre money that was flowing into the Clinton Foundation? How about Bill Clinton's $500,000 speech to a bank connected to the Kremlin right around the time that Hillary Clinton was handing all of our uranium over to the Russians? How about Barack Hussein Obama? A guy who illegally ordered our forces to go overthrow a foreign government, a guy who openly partnered with Al-Qaeda, even while we were undertaking something called a war on terror. I mean, folks, there are no exemptions in our federal terrorism laws for federal officials to violate those laws. And we know the federal government was openly partnering with Al-Qaeda and even with ISIS in their war on America. Go watch our episodes on that. And yet, Barack Obama is not being raided by the FBI. Now, I want to point out that the FBI was at one time a legitimate law enforcement agency, okay? There was a time when it was doing really good work, taking down communists that were infiltrating our institutions, doing really good counterintelligence work. I mean, never as good as it should have been, but there was a time when the FBI was doing legitimate, valuable, constitutional work in America. But that time has passed. The FBI today has become a total disgrace. Where it once routed out communists, today it is run by communists. And that's no exaggeration, folks. Let's look at James Comey, who famously told New York Magazine, admitted in an interview that he used to be a communist. He didn't say what he was now, whatever I am now. How does that happen, that a quote-unquote former communist whose political opinions are undisclosed, ends up in charge of the agency that once was in charge of rooting out communists. And we've seen the same thing. We've done episodes on this. John Brennan, right, the weirdo running the CIA, who, of course, bragged that he had voted for the Communist Party candidate in 1978, an agent of the Soviet Union, and somehow got a security clearance from the CIA and moved up the ranks so quickly that he ended up running it. How about Leon Panetta, the guy from the Marxist Institute for Policy Studies, basically a front for the Soviet Union? How did he end up in charge of the DOD and the CIA? Folks, something really, really terrible is happening here. And at this point, federal law enforcement, we need to acknowledge, has been weaponized against Americans, and in particular against opponents of the Democrat Party, the deep state, the globalists, the socialists, the communists, the Islamists, and they are now trying to take down Trump because he is the nominal head of the opposition. They figure if they can take down Trump, we will all realize that nobody is safe from their lawlessness, from their evil tactics, from their horrible agenda, and they hope that it will silence people. And we'll talk a little bit more about what the other ulterior motives may be later. But some of the other things that the FBI has been doing, folks, and we've talked about them here on this program, using counterterrorism resources to target parents speaking out at school boards. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. This has now come out. Whistleblowers have gone to Congress, and they said, yes, contrary to the lying denials by the Attorney General Merrick Garland, the FBI was, in fact, using counterterrorism resources to go after moms and dads concerned about the brainwashing of their children. How about the January 6th political prisoners? These are, grandmas in some cases, people who were invited into the Capitol by the police department, people who were encouraged by Antifa and FBI agents. What about Ray Epps, right? Where's the FBI talking to Ray Epps? And you still got these prisoners. Some of them have been in there locked up for over a year as political prisoners, with the FBI raiding the homes of their families, terrorizing their children, acting like they're some sort of terrorist because they trespassed in the Capitol. Folks, this is insane. They are now terrorizing people who oppose them. We've got, of course, the raid on James O'Keefe's house because apparently he had some documents belonging to Joe Biden's son. We've got the demonization of patriotic Americans. And this is not a new problem. This has been going on for a while, but Project Veritas just released the document. You can see it here, painting conservatives as violent militia extremists. If they have a Gadsden flag, I have a Gadsden flag, right? If they have a Betsy Ross flag, right? I have a Betsy Ross flag. Who do these people think they are? This is insane. And then they're trying to get local police departments to believe that Americans who use these kinds of symbols, which are just patriotic symbols of our nation's history, are violent militia extremists. Folks, this is incredibly dangerous. Meanwhile, they're actually orchestrating terror plots, right? Who could forget the nonsense that happened in Michigan with a fake kidnapping attempt on the lunatic governor up there, Governor Whitmer? Turned out to be an FBI plot from start to finish. And this is what they've been doing for years. They're going out and radicalizing kids with schizophrenia, radicalizing people with mental problems, giving them ideas to blow stuff up, giving them weapons and guns, and encouraging them to go do this kind of stuff. Folks, this is incredible. This is absolutely incredible. Now, we also find out that they're regularly lying to judges, right? The FBI lawyer who lied to judges to get the search warrants on Trump, he did a year of probation with a few hours of community service. Now he's got his law license reinstated. Folks, you got to be kidding me. This is insane, right? We've got the judge now who signed this warrant to go search Trump's home. Now the information's coming out. He's tied to the child sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, can you imagine this, folks? He's an Obama donor. Okay, he left the U.S. Attorney's Office to go represent employees of the convicted pedophile child sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, who ended up getting immunity in the long-running sex trafficking investigation. Folks, this Judge Bruce Reinhardt, you think they did a little bit of judge shopping? You bet they did. And unbelievable, folks. This guy was literally working for Epstein's pilots, Epstein's scheduler, Sarah Kellen, Epstein's Yugoslavian sex slave, as he put it, Nadia Markinkova. Okay, this is hard to believe, but it's true. Now we find out the FBI just seized a cell phone from a congressman, Republican Representative Scott Perry of Pennsylvania, while he was traveling with his family. Folks, think of how many of Trump's key people they've already taken down using bogus garbage from the FBI. Michael Flynn, right? They framed the man. They entrapped him. They tried to get him on paper lying. He ended up pleading guilty because they threatened to go after his son. Of course, Flynn was the national security advisor to Donald Trump. They went after Roger Stone. They raided the man's house with CNN in tow, woke his wife, got her out of bed. I mean, this is Banana Republic stuff, folks. Steve Bannon, now they're going after him on phony charges of disrespecting Congress or whatever. What about Eric Holder? right? The guy was charged of contempt of Congress when he got caught lying about trafficking firearms to Mexican drug cartels. The guy's still walking around free now, trying to dismantle our free elections. Okay, folks, this is simply incredible. Peter Navarro, right? They get the guy at the airport. They put him in leg shackles. What kind of gangsterism is this? Paul Manafort, Trump's campaign manager, taken down on phony tax charges from years ago. Folks, this is a clear message to every American, and they know it too. They know it. You are not safe if you oppose us. That is what the goal is. They want us to believe that nobody is safe. And so now members of Congress are proposing drastic solutions. Representative Paul Gosar of Arizona says on Twitter, I will support a complete dismantling and elimination of the Democrat brown shirts known as the FBI. This is too much for our republic to withstand. I agree. We'll talk more about that in a minute. We have got to dismantle this rogue agency, and I think there needs to be a special prosecutor because, folks, this is not just a difference of opinion. This is lawlessness. This is criminal activity. Representative Anthony Sabatini, Florida legislator now running for Congress, says it's time for us in the Florida legislature to call an emergency legislative session and amend our laws regarding federal agencies. Sever all ties with the DOJ immediately. Any FBI agent conducting law enforcement agencies outside the purview of our state should be arrested upon sight. I think states really do need to start considering drastic solutions like this, folks, and sheriffs too. If some clown car full of FBI agents shows up in your jurisdiction and wants to terrorize your constituents with lawless pretext, sheriffs and states need to stand in the way. It's enough of this, folks. We have to have our states resisting this. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Congresswoman from Georgia, has been a guest on the New Americans channel, of course. She says that this type of rogue tactics, this happens in countries right before they fall into tyrannical dictatorships. No one should tolerate this. She says, I think there's an extremely high probability that the FBI planted evidence against President Trump. Otherwise, why would they not allow his attorneys or anyone to watch them while they conducted their unprecedented raid? She said the FBI has gone rogue and is doing the dirty work of a communist regime. Who is giving these orders? Okay. She also posted that we need to defund the FBI. And folks, we agree. It's time for this to be reined in. It's time for this to stop. There are only 3 federal crimes listed in the U.S. Constitution: piracy, counterfeiting, and treason. To the extent that we need federal law enforcement, those are the crimes they should be focusing on, not all these bizarre unconstitutional statutes that Congress has passed. Folks, remember, the FBI was literally created by an executive order by President Roosevelt in 1908. If it was created by executive order, it can be abolished by executive order. So 2024, if Trump wins, I hope we get some very, very serious action, assuming we have free and fair elections anymore, which at this point is not a good assumption. Also, folks, now I want to warn you before we let you go, it's really a dangerous time in our republic. Watch out. Watch out. There's been a lot of talk about civil war. Folks, this is dangerous. There's nothing that the deep state would love more than to watch Americans slaughter each other in the streets. Resist these calls. In fact, if somebody's calling for violence, shooting people, blowing things up, you can be almost sure that it's an FBI minion or an idiot. So, folks, it is not the time to even consider violence as a solution. Watch out also for false flags, right? We know the federal government has been engaged in false flags for decades. We've got documents showing it. Operation Mongoose, right? Operation Northwoods, over and over and over. The most recently, this crazy thing that happened in Michigan, where the FBI ran this fake operation to kidnap the governor of Michigan, and then it came out in court it was an FBI operation. They ended up cutting the guys loose. They were acquitted because, hey, this was an FBI operation, not a legitimate attack or attempt to kidnap the governor. So, folks, a very dangerous time in our republic. Look for more. I guarantee you that the Department of Injustice is going to take this further if they think they can get away with it. And I guarantee you, too, that the deep state would love it if America were to descend into a civil war. We've got to resist that. The way to stop this is to use lawful, legitimate means. Our state governments need to play a role. Our Congress needs to play a role. And frankly, I think red states and red jurisdictions need to start investigating the lawlessness and the criminal activity that we are seeing from the Biden administration and from previous administrations. Okay, we outlined some of those crimes earlier today. There's no reason in the world why a state attorney general or a sheriff or a local prosecutor cannot start probing some of these very, very serious crimes. This is still a federalist system where our states have retained all powers not granted to the federal government. in the Constitution, and so we need to exercise these constitutional tools that we have at our disposal to protect our nation and to protect our freedoms from the deep state. I'm Alex Newman. This is Behind the Deep State for the New American Magazine. Thank you so much for tuning in. Till next time, God bless you all.
If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe, hit like, hit that little bell so that you'll be notified whenever we post new videos. And also, please make sure to share this video with your friends. Email is a great way to do it. Remember, there are powerful forces working to steal our freedom and destroy our country. We need to work together, expose those behind the deep state. Otherwise, you can kiss your liberties goodbye.